Okay. Throughout the tour, my voice may break. I sound like a prepubescent boy occasionally. That's okay. It's been like that for a while. Just laugh at it. We all do. Okay. Check history! So the very first people that ever came through this land, they were actually called the Boii, right? A Celtic tribe, they were called the Boii tribe. Now they didn't stay around here very long, but they gave these lands their names. After the Celts left, the Germans came through. They called this place Boiheim, which means home of the boy, right? And then the Romans came through and they called this place Boiheimum, which is where we get the word Bohemia. By the time the Czechs got here, the land was already named for them. They didn't have to do any work. Now, you'll notice as well throughout my history, Czechs always get swallowed up by a force that's greater than them and kind of coast along for the ride until something goes horribly wrong. Now, the first time this happened was with the Moravians. The Moravians, they set up an empire, swallowed up the Czechs, coasting along, everything's cool. Then, the Moravian Empire fell. And now Moravia is in the south. And really the only difference between Bohemia and Moravia, Moravians make wine and we make beer. And it sucks, by the way, the wine sucks. Has anyone tried Czech wine? It's awful, don't do it. Stick with the beer. So the Czechs, they kind of pick themselves up and they say, we're Czech, we're cool, we've got this empire business down. So a beautiful psychic princess, she lives 1.5 miles south of here in the castle of Bischofeld. She decides that she will marry the best possible man that she can to start a huge Czech dynasty. So she marries a farmer. It was a good choice though. His name is Przemysl and they started the Przemysl dynasty. 600 years of good times and unpronounceable Czech names. By 1306, Wenceslas III, he's assassinated. His sister Elizabeth is left in charge. She doesn't know what to do. She needs help, needs answers, needs it now. So she logs on to Google. That's what you do, right? They unfortunately did not have Google back then, but they had the next best thing, the Luxembourg. Now today, Luxembourg is a teeny tiny country, but back in the day, they were Holy Roman emperors. So Elizabeth, she marries one of them, becomes a checkmate, if you will. And we get the Luxembourg dynasty here in the Czech land. And they gave us some very good kings too, with the added bonus of more pronounceable names, like Charles IV. He gave us Charles Bridge, Charles Square, and Charles University. This guy was such a baller that he had 4 wives. The last 2 were sisters. So Charles IV, very good king. His son Wenceslas IV, not a good king at all. Wenceslas IV, he has a huge problem with that green guy, Jan Hus, over there. So 1415, he burns Jan Hus at the stake. Now Jan Hus's posse, they're not so down with that, right? So they run to Newtown Hall, they get in a fight with a couple Catholic nobles, and to finish this fight, they throw them out the window. First Prague defenestration, 1419, the first. Yeah, first of all, there's more than one, and defenestration is a fancy way of saying chucking people out the window. Now to make sure that these guys died, they put stakes right underneath the windows. So the Czechs invented the kebab, the Czech kebab, if you will. No one gave them credit. Now this kicked off a religious war. Crusade after crusade is sent here to beat the Hussites down. But after 15 years, no one wants to fight anymore. There's a lot of dead people, so guess what? They call it a tie. No one wins. Like most religious wars, by the way. So after this, there's a period of relative calm. The Luxembourg dynasty dies out, and we get the Austro-Hungarians here, the Habsburgs. And they gave us some very good kings too. Rudolf II! This guy was not so interested in being king, he was more interested in unlocking the secrets of the universe. So he invited all these alchemists, chemists, astronomers to turn lead into gold, figure out planetary rotations, and all that good stuff. So Rudolf II, great king. His brother after him, good too. But his son, Ferdinand II, oh, Ferdy. Not a good king at all. Ferdinand II, again, has a huge problem with the Hussites, alright? And the Hussites think, well, let's see, defenestration didn't really work the first time, so let's do it again! This time they run up to Prague Castle to get in a fight with 2 Catholic noblemen, and to finish the fight, they chuck them out the window. Plus, their secretary for good measure. Second Prague defenestration, 1618. Now this time, unfortunately, they forgot the spears, they forgot the stakes, right? So the Czechs bounced. Who's hungover?
It was a good joke, I liked it.
The Czechs bounced and they landed in a pile of manure. Now the Catholics saw this and they said, angels caught them, it's a miracle. The Hussites saw this and they said, no, that's just bullshit. Literally and figuratively. So this kicks off a 30-year religious war called the 30 Years' War. Very creative naming. So, 30 Years' War was the 10th worst war of all time. 1/3 of towns all across Europe were completely obliterated and destroyed. And guess what, guys? After 30 years, no one actually won. Again, it was a tie. But the coffin makers, they made a lot of money. The arms dealers, well, they made a killing. After this, there's a period of relative calm. Those sides pick themselves up, but more and more of them are getting pushed out of their land. Their land is given to native German speakers, and this is a huge problem, because by the 1800s, 1/3 of Czechs don't even speak Czech anymore. But there's a huge national revival, a Czech renaissance, if you will. They codify the language, lots of writers, authors, poets doing stuff in Czech. By 1848, they try to rise up against the Austro-Hungarians, but they're crushed. Czechs, by the way, not violent people. They don't really know how to fight. But as some of you guys may know, Austria-Hungary was on the losing side in World War I. So 1918, you finally have Czechoslovakia on a map for the very first time. Spirit fingers. And the 20 years between World War I and World War II, these are actually the best times for the Czech lands. We have the 7th wealthiest economy in the world. But good times cannot last forever. A little guy comes in, he starts giving us problems. And you may have, just may have heard of him. He was short, he had dark hair, he was from Austria.
And he had a weird little mustache.
He had a funky little mustache. Hitler has this great idea. Let's unite all the German speakers all across Europe. So he looks into Western Czechoslovakia and, oh hey, hey, there's a bit of Germans living over there. So he meets with Italy, France, and Great Britain. Was there a Czech representative? Italy, France, Great Britain, they turn their backs on the Czechs and they give Hitler that western part of Czechoslovakia, the Sudetenland as it was called. Once Hitler has that, why the hell not? I'll take the whole damn country. So he does. And did we start a war with him then? We waited until Hitler invaded Poland in 1939 before we actually started World War II. So the Nazis were here all the way from 38 to 45, and the Czechs had this amazing uprising called the Prague Uprising. That's such a fabulous and heart-wrenching story, it will make you cry, that I have to save it till the end. So, World War II's over. Everyone thinks Czechoslovakia is free, but no! Goodbye Hitler, hello Stalin. 1948, communist coup. Hardline communist rule all the way until 1968. There's an easing of the rules, known as the Prague Spring. Crushed by all of the Warsaw Pact troops. Hardline communist rule again until 1989, when the Velvet Revolution finally brings freedom to Czechoslovakia. Yay! Not quite the end of the story though. 1992, there is a Slovak guy. His name is Metzia. He comes up to Prague and says, guys, East Side Pride. We've got our own language, we've got our own culture, we're tired of being bossed around by you. And the Czechs say, well, Metzia, West Side Pride. We've got all the natural resources. You guys are holding us back anyway. But what? That's as ugly as it got. Czechs are not violent people. So 1993, you've got the Velvet divorce. Bratislava is the capital of Slovakia. Prague is the capital of the Czech Republic. That's my history and I'm sticking to it. Let's go see the clock.